Alright, welcome back to Tactics Talk with Guido, the first in a series of reviews for the new Chinese TD line. We'll start at Tier 5 with the 60G FT. Just a couple overall things right here, looking at the tech tree for the Chinese. These are pretty much wholly made up tanks from the Chinese cluster. Whether they have any basis in reality or fact, I have no idea, but I tend to think not. One thing that's interesting about these is all the crew layouts are exactly the same. There's 4 crew members. They all occupy the exact same spot from Tier 2 all the way to Tier 10. So you're not going to have any real problems managing the crew if you want to continually just pop them up to the next tank. As I said, I started at Tier 5. What I did for Tier 5 was free XP to it and then free XP to all the top modules. I did the same thing for the 6 and the 7 as far as the modules go, but I ground from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7 with the top modules. At 8, I ran out of free experience, so I had to grind out the top gun, actually 2 guns at Tier 8 to get to the top gun, and then Tier 9 I had to grind out the tracks, and I'm grinding out the large gun as we speak right now. The radio and the engine are the same across here, and that happens a couple times in this series. So this is a very easy, as far as management goes, of modules and crew line to go through because it's essentially made up from whole cloth. But we started at Tier 5 down here. Let's jump down and take a look at it. It is a large tank. As an overview, you can see that it's carrying a commander, gunner, driver, and loader, and those are the exact 4 in all of the tanks all the way up the hill to the Tier 10. Crew's not in there because I moved them up all the way through. I only have 1 crew, and they're in the Tier 9 right now. I did not run with 6 cents on this tank. It was 100% crew, and I started grinding experience from there. You'll note that I have the binoculars, camo net, and a medium gun rammer. You could probably go with just an offensive setup on this. This thing has almost, I was going to say has 0 camo. It's got some camo, but as compared to the other TDs at Tier 5, it really lags behind. It is a great big large tank with a pretty darn good gun. So you really want to stay out of direct fire. So we're talking more of a sniping at draw distance kind of idea. But on cleanup phase, it can really get in there and start punching out the DPM. We'll talk about that a little bit later. How did I do in it? Pop it up here. It took me 17 games from fully upgraded modules to get to the Tier 6. 64%, 35% survived, and only hit at 56, 55. So the gun is a little bit wonky. The Chinese line is a little bit schizophrenic, especially till you get to about the 7 or 8 where the armor finally starts to work. With the DPM and the gun and the pen and the wonky soft stats, you kind of want to be close, but that's also deadly because you're going to end up taking lots of hits and not be able to survive them. So a little bit weird on that as far as sitting back with a gun that's not great. This one is probably one of the better ones in the series. Once you get to the 6 and 7, the soft stats really start to get kind of bad, and you have a hard time actually hitting anything at range. It's not to say it can't be done, but it is just something to think about. 2.33 damage, 2.55 on the destruction. There's the armor. You can see it's 0.02, just abysmal. Experience at 625, and I averaged 733 damage and received 314. Down here to the enemy vehicles destroyed, 1.65, and obviously spotted is very low because this is not a tank you want to go running out in front of everyone else with. Take a look at the modules on this thing. Get back in here. As soon as I get to the right spot, back to the tech tree, back to the tank. There we go. And you can see it's fairly uniform, and most of these tanks only have a couple modules to go through. There's not, 3 engines on a tank because there's no historical accuracy. It's just a basic build for a grindable kind of tank. A couple of them have 2 or 3 guns. The Tier 8 sticks in my mind. It's actually got 2 guns you got to get through to get to the first one, although you start with the basic one, you grind to a middle one, and then you grind to the top gun. But pretty clean as far as all of the upgrade and stuff like that goes. When we get down here to the comparison, this is where it gets interesting with this tank. So you can see that the Tier 5 TDs are quite a diverse bunch. You've got the T-67 raging around with that famous DPM and its turret and its stealthiness. The Stug, the famous Stug. You got the bathtub with its massive gun. You got the toaster with just spitting out all kinds of DPM and penetration. the utilitarian Su-85, and then the Beast AT-2 slow turtle tank. That at tier is just nearly impossible to take down without flanking. So a really interesting group of tanks, and most of them play a little bit differently, or quite a bit differently than each other. So looking at the firepower, I have set these all up, by the way, with 100% crew, top modules, but no equipment or skills. So just a base model, fully upgraded tank with a 100% crew. So you see firepower-wise, the number that Wargaming gives it shows a 207. They consider the Panzer Fizzle to be 269, which is way up there, by the way. So coming down here, rate of fire, kind of right in the middle there, not as much as the AT-2. By the way, I put the little gun on the AT-2, not the derp, just for purposes of this. Reload time is pretty quick. Gun traverse, that's just side to side, not a big deal on that. The elevation and depression is usable. Not great, but usable. Gun traverse limits, 15 degrees side to side. This is something you're going to find in all these Chinese TDs. And again, because they're built from whole cloth, how realistic 15 degrees side to side on a casemate built like this is, I couldn't tell you. It doesn't seem like it is, but of course some of these other tanks have pretty good traverse as well. This always made me laugh here on the SCA. You've got a little bit more to one side than the other, or actually twice as much to one side as the other. Aiming time is relatively quick, so the soft stats are okay. Dispersion is alright, not amazing, but right in there. But this is where it starts to shine. Look at this average damage per minute. 2,347, and it is well ahead of everything except for the T-67, which is well known for its ridiculous DPM. So as far as that goes, that's really nice. Not potentially as useful as it is on a T-67 with a turret and the thing's mobility, but there you have it. It can spit out some damage. Hit points are okay. Armor, none, basically. The only one here that really has any is the AT-2, and it's ridiculous at tier. And of course the Stug has some, and the Su-85 is lagging behind as well there. Mobility is decent. It is going to get up to 45 miles per hour, so that's not amazing, but it's good. It's not slow like the AT-2. Engine power, specific power is okay. Specific's actually kind of low in there as well. Traverse speed, spinning side to side on the tracks is decent. You will have an okay time dealing with people trying to circle you or flank you. But the concealment is where you really start to see, holy cow, look at that, 12.77, and it is so much further below anything, even below the AT-2, worse than it. And the view range is out to 340, so best in class, but view range is not really the power, I guess you would say, of the Tier 5 TDs right there. And oops, signal range, look at that, awesome signal range. No idea why the 67 has such an amazing radio. So that's the comparison right there. So what you're looking at is a very soft, relatively mobile TD with pretty bad camo for a Tier 5, and a good but not amazing gun soft stat wise, but as far as the pen and the damage, when you look down here, you're talking about 180 damage and 145 pen or 220 with a gold round. So as far as that goes, doing its TD job of standoff and blasting out rounds down range, it can do it, all right? But you've got to take into account that it can be seen easily and it's not super mobile. From here, we'll go ahead and jump into a couple gameplay examples. First example of gameplay for the 60 GFT Tier 5 Chinese tank destroyer, and we are here on Windstorm, and I have spawned in the northeast spawn. I'm going to go up here and do a pretty standard TD thing, sit back here and see if I can't get some early shots on guys poking inappropriately. So come up here, I've got a Panzer 4D friend. I don't know exactly why he's up here as well. But the thing about this tank is you do want to be careful early on. You can't go raging too far forward. It just doesn't have the armor or the camo or the ability to get out of dodge. So we'll just sit back here and we'll do the Camo Sniper thing. You can see that the team is spreading out a little bit. Got an M3 Lee going crazy down into the town. No idea why he's raging so far forward, but he is. And there's a T-14 down there and a Lee in the town, and S-35 coming through there. Pretty standard low tier battle. It's 2-tier, I'm top tier, so this is a good setup for me, but you will show, or I will show you what the strengths of this tank are, which is spitting out lead and penetrating things. Luke's is probably going to get pinned to just about anything, but just fire that right down. You can see it's a reasonable accuracy at that range. Not amazing, but reasonable. There's the depression. Not quite what I wanted, and probably missed a shot right there, goofing around. That's just being unfamiliar with the tank. Blap one in there in case the Luke's happens to be silly enough to still be sitting there. And you can see that our town is probably going to lose, so I've noted that. We are up 3 tanks, so we're winning the north fight, but there goes the south town fight. The Luke's is making a run for it. And now it's time to reposition here, because I feel like more than likely we're going to get some enemies filtering back through the town, so I'll just repo back this way. Got a Hetzer down there, maybe going to give me some spots to take some shots at. The T-14 now is pushing through. I've got a T-67 sitting all the way back up here. It's a good opportunity for a little positioning discussion. Here comes the T-14. Now take a look at the penetration on this thing. A T-14 is a relatively solid tank. Now it is full broadside. That is going to hurt him right here, but I am dropping those shots in no problem. Really not even concerned if I'm going to penetrate or not, because it's going right through that guy with the penetration this thing has, even with its regular AP round. This is just dumb. I shoot here. He's obviously behind all those buildings, so that was just dopey. Back to the positioning comment. Initially I went to a spot where I knew I could get early shots on anyone being foolish up in the north, but I don't stay there. I had 2 choices: push forward and help them in the north, or swing back here and help out with the things that are filtering through to the town. So I choose to go back and protect the cap, not trusting any of these other players. That was another dumb shot. Obviously that was a building right there. I don't know if I'd had too much cough syrup that morning or what. So the DW2 and the M3 Lee, there goes the Covenator, which may have been AFK actually, sitting there. So much for that spotting ability. There's a grill right down there in front of me. And I've got my T-67 buddy right there. Now I don't have 6th sense, so you'll see me moving around a little bit, dropping off, and not being willing to just kind of sit out in the open, which is never a good idea anyway. Missed that shot. You can see the azimuth, the good azimuth of the gun. I don't even really have to shift my hole. I can just swing the gun on this guy all the way over here. So really nice left to right, the 15 degrees I believe it was. A little quick shift in case he tries to get out of my arc. And I know I'm spotted, so I'm just going to have to start moving around. There is a birch gun or artillery, whatever they've got over there. Birch gun, so I do need to be cognizant of him and careful. Now the north is still a fight, it looks like. Still holding us over there. Cleaned up some of the guys coming through town. There's the artillery. Unless it was somebody's derp. I'm pretty sure that would have been the artillery, but there you go. So come back up here. I know that Matilda's trolling around, so I'm looking for him. But I do also realize that at some point I need to move forward because we've got to clean this thing up. And this is a problem that a lot of pure TD players will have. They'll get to this point in the game where it's very winnable if they would just get forward and get their gun doing something, but they just kind of sit back for too long. I see the DW2 go down, I see the Panzer IV-D go down, and we have quite the advantage now, so it is time to get on my horse and go. You'll notice that you can see its maneuverability is okay, so it's not buzzing around like a T-67 necessarily, but it's not bad at all. Now here's a Covenator who's giving me a lot of side armor. But even so, those are not Covenator, a Matilda. But even so, those are pretty tough tanks. And he is able to whack me just by rocking back and forth and hitting me. But you'll notice that I'm not even worried, that I just pen right through that guy. And off we go. Artillery took a shot. I'm going to do a couple jinks on this bridge. If I was an artillery player and I saw the TD headed for the bridge, I'd probably just center mass that bridge and see if I couldn't splash him or even hit him. So I'll just try to make his job a little bit harder. And now I'm pushing up. Again, decent mobility, so I'm able to follow up these guys. You can see the 67 is just buzzing right along. But I've got that big gun, relatively, for this tier. Excellent DPM, amazing DPM. So I need to get that up into the fight here. What I don't want to do is have my near-deads try to push into all their guys without my support, have them all die, and now I'm a 1v4 sitting in the back, having not fired for the last 2 minutes. Crusader dies. There's a Su-76. Oh, look at this, T-67. So you'll see this gun. Just zoom in on this guy, auto-aim, fire away, he disappears. Looking for him. Holy cow. Not sure what happened there, but I'm able to get the gun back onto him. Birch gun goes down. That's good news for me. This is, again, very soft tank. A direct hit from the Birch gun would probably have a good chance at taking me out. Going right up in here, you'll see the azimuth of the gun works out once again. Take a shot on him, and I'm able to track him through that, and they end up dying. And the point there is that I can come up, stop my tank, and I can actually track right to left, in this case left to right, quite a bit before I hit the stop on my gun, which allows me to get out in front and take those shots. So that's one of the strengths of this tank. We'll move on to the second example. For the second example, I will show you a little more aggressive use of the tank. Loaded into steps, top tier in a 2-tier 5 and 10 battle. It's an encounter battle, and we spawn down in the south. You can see that I'm headed over to the west side, being quite a bit more aggressive than I was. This is something I like to do on lower tier battles and in the right situation. This is not the greatest tank for doing it, but based on what I saw in front of me tank-wise, I figured let's give this a shot, see if we can be a little more aggressive. And this bush right here affords an opportunity to really tear up anybody who comes right at you. Remember, I don't have sixth sense on this tank. So here comes immediately a T-28 F30 or whatever it is. That thing's got that big old derp gun. I'm quite surprised he didn't just blap me and end up killing me. But I'm able to go ahead and DPM him down. That's a great example of the DPM on that gun. There's a KV-1 coming, and this is the point at which, if this was a tier 10 or type of battle and the other team was a little bit more aggressive, I'd probably die wholesale right here. They'd just filter in amongst these rocks, come around the corner and whack me, and more than likely not really take any shots from our guys camping there along the H line. But based on it being such a low tier battle, I take a little bit more of a chance in here. It ends up working out for me. Realize I have no armor, and this thing is vulnerable to being penned by derp guns. So while this tactic is not highly recommended, in the right situation it can actually be useful. So I got a friend coming up, got a Hetzer with me. He's got the KV-1's attention, and I figure I really can't leave this KV-1 in here side scraping and gunning me down. He's busy with that guy, so I'm just going to come around and start whacking him. There's a 179. He sees me. There's another shot into him. I'm now firing my heat with all that pen. See if we can get him, and you can see the fantastic DPM of that thing. Even though the KV-1 actually has pretty good reload, I'm able to take that guy down. And he did not switch to HE, which helped me out right there quite a bit. I know there's already, there it is, I figured they would be shooting at me or the Hetzer in there, and now I'm just going to go ahead and retreat back to my little bush back here and see if I can't find somebody else coming through. Go ahead and get established. I got a couple friends going that way. Oh, no, now there's a bunch of targets, so I'll move forward, use these bushes right here. Taking a look at the ELC. Notice the Luke's where he is right there on the mini-map. This is actually kind of interesting a little while later. Don't quite have a shot on the Hetzer because he's up there looking for him. He dies. Oh, wait a minute. Now we've got a T-34 or something coming through here. Nope, the ELC. I'm able to put a shot on him. Again, that right to left movement of the gun is pretty good. I ended up actually tracking the ELC that time. So I've tracked him twice, auto aim, take him down. Unfortunately, I'm still firing heat, which I did not need to be doing right here. Sort of forgot I had picked it up. We'll get a kill shot on the T-30. Nope. Probably went into his tracks with the heat shot. So there you go. An example of heat not doing you any favors. Or got into one of the highly angled parts of that tank with him being sideways. Either the turret or potentially on top of the hole where it's angled. And you're going to bounce that quite often with heat. So I'm going to retreat back here. We're doing well, but it's not necessarily one. You can see that I only have a B1 over here with me right now, so I don't want to go pushing forward, getting out in the open and letting the Arty, the T-34, the M8A1, and the Lukes. Once they all start firing at me, I won't last very long. Notice once again where the Lukes is. This is coming up, and it is kind of interesting. Our guys are pushing down towards the cap. You can see my B1 is moving forward, so now I will be a little bit more aggressive here in a moment once he gets around this corner. Let's go and follow this guy up. Perhaps he'll get me something to shoot at. He keeps on trucking. Hey, whoa, uh-oh. Man, that thing's going to just gun that B1 down. What is that Luke's doing? Well, let me see if I can find him. Alright, so take a look at that. I'm looking at his marker, which is usually right above the tank, and I think you can probably tell what's going on, which I could not at the time. Thinking, well, I guess he's over that ridge a little bit, so I'm only going to have a turret shot or something on him. So I'm kind of looking like, what the heck is going on? So I'll just take a shot in here. Maybe it'll drop on him, and then I go, wait a minute, what the heck? Something's moving. Oh, there he is. That one completely misses, and I finally get aimed in there, and we're able to take this guy down. I would imagine I was spotted there, so I do need to get moving. That is one of the dangers of not having sixth sense, but more than likely the arty is concentrating on the fight up there in the northeast, so I got lucky there. One of those arties could probably take me out if it was a direct hit and pinned my top. So we'll come on up top here. Again, not having sixth sense is a bit of a problem here because it can be a de facto spotting mechanism. While it won't tell you exactly where they are or light them up, it will tell you that you're seen, which means they're nearby. So I don't have that to rely on. I've got to actually see whatever it is. I know the M3 is over there. The SAU is dealing with our guys on the cap. And the M3, and there's two arty hanging out. One not spotted in that STPZ. That's an old spot. A stale spot, as I say, so I don't know really where he could be at this point. Ah, there's the M3. I should have stopped there, but I stopped behind the rock like a bozo. Then I move back, and you can see that this thing can actually sort of side scrape. It's able to come around a corner and minimize its exposure with all that angle on the gun. Now you're massive, so that's not really going to make it... you're not really going to bounce anything necessarily, but you may minimize the amount of your tank that's shown. I should have stopped right there and kept trying to snipe the top of that thing, but I'm actually getting the spotting damage off of that guy. Push up in here, try to get him. Come on, man, can I get there? He gets hit by arty. I'm looking for the other arty. You see me moving my camera around so much. I'm sort of expecting that STPZ to be in one of these bushes over here, which is why I kept looking that way. See if I couldn't find him. But actually, as I turn away, he'll appear back behind me. Where is that guy? Is he still back in this corner? No, he's way back there. I don't get any more hit points out of that. So I end up with 1,300 and ace mastery in the tank, 5 kills. A little bit more aggressive use of the tank, where I use its strengths of DPM and decent mobility. And then I'm not complete YOLO foolish running forward. A couple repositions back to my spot, wait for another opportunity to come out and unload and unleash with that DPM. And that is the review of the Chinese Tier 5 60G FT. Hopefully you learned something here. Not a bad tank. I'll keep it just because I keep all the tanks at this point in my World of Tanks career. But otherwise, it's not really the most amazing tank destroyer at Tier 5, but it definitely has some things to recommend it. Big, lots of DPM, bad camo is about what you can take away from this thing. Alright guys, I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate all of your support. If you've got any videos or replays, more specifically, you would like me to look at to either do a replay analysis, or if it's a great game or something really funny happened, go ahead and send that in and I will try to feature it on the channel. Otherwise, we will see you.